Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Ian Smith. I'm from United States Connect. Thanks very much for joining us this afternoon on our regular monthly Doing Business in the US webinar. Today we're lucky enough to have two experts on selling to Amazon. I'd just like to thank the Export Council of Australia who are key to bringing you these webinars that we're now doing monthly. And do a fantastic job in representing Australian exporters. And also welcome to all of our Kiwi friends from across the ditch, and we've actually got two Kiwi speakers today talking about Amazon. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Paul Gray from ExportX. Paul started ExportX with the specific objective of using software technology to make it faster, easier and cheaper for products to reach American customers. Today, ExportX sells products to online shoppers in North America, Europe and Japan, bypassing conventional distribution and using its software technology to harness the power of the world's biggest online marketplaces. ExportX specialises in selling products through Amazon, and prior to founding ExportX, Paul was a co-founder and the Chief Technology Officer of Peace Software, one of the most successful New Zealand high-tech companies. Paul's just recently joined United States Connect as a service provider. I say recently, about 5 months ago, and has a shipment leaving for the States in the next couple of days, I believe, to sell on to Amazon. And I'd like to introduce Paul, who'll be our first speaker. Just pointing out that we have two speakers today. The second speaker is Kim Goldsworthy from Hayrex New Zealand Limited, and we'll basically run the two presentations together, which will go for about 20 minutes each, and then we'll leave time for questions at the end. Very simple to ask a question. You can just type it into the panel on your display. If you're having any issues with audio or visual, please also enter that into the system. So without further ado, I'll just introduce Paul and we'll get the presentation started.
Great, thanks very much, Ian, and thanks everyone for logging in. We're talking about selling successfully on Amazon in the USA. And given that you're here, then you probably already know that selling on Amazon is a big opportunity. E-commerce in the USA is now a $300 billion a year market. The overall US retail sector, that's bricks and mortar stores and everything, is growing at 4%, which is a pretty healthy growth rate. But e-commerce is growing nearly 4 times faster, 15% year on year. So, as expected, e-commerce every year is a bigger and bigger proportion of total retail. But when you look at e-commerce, when you look at the US market, e-commerce has something special to offer. It can give you national reach immediately, whereas going to market a conventional way, whether directly yourself or choosing distributors, with that sort of conventional geographic-based distribution, it can take years or decades to get to the same level of national reach. So there's a whole lot of reasons that e-commerce is a great way to go to market in the United States. Next, what the media stories about e-commerce in America don't always tell you is quite to what extent e-commerce there is dominated by online marketplaces. A couple of years ago, in 2013, Amazon was neck and neck with eBay. Each accounted for about 30% of e-commerce. The latest numbers just in a week or so ago show that that game has changed. The e-commerce market is a lot bigger, but now 1/3 of all e-commerce in the United States goes through Amazon. That's over $100 billion of merchandise every year. And just to put that into context, some little companies you've probably heard of, like Apple and Hewlett-Packard and so forth, and Walmart even, they're way behind, single-digit percentages. So we talked about the retail sector growing 4%, e-commerce is growing 15% within that. Well, the value of merchandise going through Amazon is growing twice as fast nearly again, 28% year on year in 2014. So what that all adds up to is if you want to be in the fastest growing part of the market and you've got a product that people will buy online, Amazon is where you want your products to be. Next. If only it were easy. Amazon has 180 million active shoppers in the United States. What that means is pretty much everybody in America who shops online has an Amazon account and buys stuff from Amazon. But there are now 300 million products in the Amazon catalog. So your product arrives in America and you get it into Amazon. How is anyone actually going to even notice it? That's the challenge. It's not easy, but it can be done. At my company, ExportX, we're doing it every day. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about what it takes. I want to share with you a few tips and warn you about some of the traps. So what does it take to compete for the dollar of the Amazon shopper? First of all, it takes A-grade customer service if you want to compete seriously. What does A-grade customer service mean? Here's a couple of examples. 90% of sales on Amazon are dispatched with free delivery. That's not a new statistic. It's been that way for at least 5 or 6 years. And I'll put that another way. If you want to charge for delivery of your goods, you basically would be cutting yourself out of 90% of the market. What has changed in the last 18 months is that now customers in America expect not only free delivery, they expect fast delivery and they expect guaranteed delivery dates. Next, I've got an example here from an Amazon checkout screen. If you can see that, notice on the right-hand side in green, those are guaranteed delivery dates. So this is part of what means A-grade customer service in the United States. Next, I've got another example. And this is showing that the service standard has really been raised again in the last year or so. I've highlighted a bit of the text down the bottom. This is showing same-day delivery. So we're not talking about just fast delivery. We're talking about, you know, order it by 9 in the morning and be guaranteed to have it by 5 o'clock that afternoon. And I'm showing this because this is the level of service that US customers are quickly getting used to. And I guess what you could conclude from that is that dispatching orders from Australia or from New Zealand just isn't going to cut it with customers that expect that kind of service. Coming back to the Amazon catalog, 300 million items there. One of the most important ways to help shoppers find your product is to have them properly categorized. Here's an example. If someone is shopping for dog water bowls, make sure yours appears in the right subcategory in the right department, in this case the pet supplies department. If you're not in the right place, probably no one will ever see your product. It might seem really obvious of me to say that, but let me just say there's a whole lot of technical stuff that gets done behind the scenes with the product listings to give them the best possible chance of being featured in search results pages like this one. Next, I want to talk about product images and photography. Hopefully you can see 2 photographs on the screen. If this was your product, they're both photographs of the same product, by the way. If this was your product, which one of these images would you use on Amazon? The product, you know, the image on the left shows the packaging. It's nice packaging. It's quite colorful, all that sort of stuff. It's a good photograph. But we use the image on the right to sell this product on Amazon. Why do we do that? It shows the product, not just the packaging. That's a really common mistake I think a lot of people make. It's colorful. That image on the right-hand side with its purple and green and orange, if you imagine this product in a page of search results, it's colorful, it's going to stand out. That helps people want to take a look at it. Also, it shows the product in use. In this case, it's a couple of clear plastic freezer trays, but they're filled with brightly coloured vegetable puree. It's showing how the product works, how it's used, and guess what? This approach of choosing the right main product image, it really works. This particular product is a top 10 bestseller in its category. So great product imagery can really help sales. It can draw customers to want to take a look at your product. Now let's say you've gone to the trouble of getting good quality images of every single one of your products. Are you ready to go on Amazon? Kind of, but you wouldn't really be ready for prime time. I'm going to explain why. Take a look at this product. It's called Gutter Whiskers. And if you look down the left-hand side, there's a whole lot of little thumbnail images. Now we use up to 6 or 7 images to represent a product on Amazon. The supporting images, those ones on the left, they tell the story for the product. They're close-ups showing particular features of the product or design elements, or they show in detail what makes the product special, what makes it different from the alternatives. They show what it looks like in context, they show how it fits into a product range, they show what's in the box when the customer's going to get it, they show examples of how the product can be used. And on the next page, we've expanded some of those so you can get an idea. If you didn't know what gutter whiskers were, I'd like to think that by looking at some of these supporting images, suddenly it all becomes clear. It's showing the problem, it's showing how you install it, it's showing what's in the box, it's giving you some step-by-step instructions. So supporting images are really important to sell successfully, to make the most of the opportunity on Amazon. Next, I want to talk about product reviews written by customers. When you're selling on Amazon, reviews by customers really are one of the single biggest influences on a shopper's decision to buy. You know, it's often been written, customers trust product reviews by other customers more than they trust what the manufacturer says about their product. In general on Amazon, the more customer reviews, the better, especially if they're positive, but they don't all have to be positive. In fact, a product with 100% positive reviews might not be trusted at all. This is Kim's Taurus Pet Water Bowl. And it's a great example. It's a product that's relatively new to the US, relatively new to Amazon, and I'm convinced that the positive reviews that started coming in the first 6 months were almost certainly a big influence on the popularity we're now seeing for this product. Now what you should take from this is that a product on Amazon without any customer reviews probably isn't going to sell well. So you should encourage customer reviews. Now, related to customer reviews is a new thing that was launched on Amazon within the last year or so. It's called Customer Questions and Answers, and there's an example up on the screen there. This is where shoppers and customers can write questions and they can answer each other's questions, and they do in the United States. There's a very active communities of people who are quite happy to talk to each other in this sort of a public forum. So you can see the Taurus Water Bowl has triggered quite a few questions, everything from its dimensions, whether it works for big dogs, whether it works for small dogs, whether it works for cats, how to clean it, all kinds of stuff that maybe we didn't think about when we first were describing the product for the American market. These questions and answers are becoming just as influential as customer reviews on sales. So what can you do about it? How can you make these reviews and questions and answers work in your favor? Well, you can respond, you can participate. You can participate in that discussion. I think the way I describe it is that these reviews on Amazon and these customer questions and answers on Amazon, they're a form of social media. You know, social media is not just Facebook and Twitter. The difference here is that these Amazon forms of social media are not just people out on the internet. These are Amazon shoppers. They've either already tried your product or they're trying to decide whether to buy your product or whether to buy your competitor's product. It's by participating in these sorts of interactions with customers, you're getting them at that critical moment, that moment of truth when they're deciding should they or shouldn't they buy your product. So you want to be in that discussion. One recommendation is that you should respond to negative customer reviews. Often it's not so much the disgruntled customer that's the audience. You know, the person who wrote the negative review may not even read your response. The real audience is all the future shoppers who check out the negative reviews just to see what might be wrong. And if they see that you've responded, that someone's behind that product, that someone actually cares, you can actually turn a negative review into an opportunity to build brand. And that example we showed, Christina of Mummy and Bubby, she is fantastic at that. Right, now we're looking at a multi-SKU product. This is a product where there are sizes, colours, pack sizes, all that kind of stuff. And there can be dozens and dozens of products or SKUs within a single product line. Now, on Amazon, it is possible to combine all of these into what we might call a complex product listing like this one for the Merino baby bodysuit. What you can see is that we're using close-up images of the fabric in each colour, which shows the colour options. So that's helping the customers choose. There's a fair bit of technical setup to make this sort of thing happen, to create this complex style of product page on Amazon, but it is worth it. It makes it easier for customers to buy, to find the right thing they need, and ultimately that means more sales. Right, next, a quick word on pricing. Here's an example of an Ecoya candle, and we're using a little bit of customer psychology. There have been quite a few studies that show that a product shown at a price in isolation, say it just said $17.95 in this example, well, that isn't going to sell as well as a product where the price is shown as a discount from a full retail price. And that's what we're doing here, $17.95 down from $19.95. The reason is that our brains naturally look for context and comparison. If we just put a price out there, people don't know, is it a good price, is it a bad price? But if you put more than one price there, then there's an immediate context, and it's been shown that people are more likely to buy the product that shows some kind of a discount or some kind of value. So in other words, it's a good idea to configure your prices to display this way when you're selling on Amazon. Right, cross-selling. Here's an example. I've come back to the Taurus dog water bowl, and you can see that we're promoting the filter packs that go with it. And we've got these nice add both to cart. It's a special version of the add to cart button that pops up there. Add both to cart. Make it easy for people to buy more products. The next thing is coupons and offers, and this is something that it's not necessarily simple to do, but it can be very powerful. This is where you give customers a coupon code and they enter it at checkout to claim some kind of a benefit. In this case, it's that same combination of products. We're promoting that filter pack free in this case with that coupon code when you buy a couple of Taurus bowls. So we use these kinds of coupon promotions extensively for selling on Amazon. Next, I want to touch on this thing called the buy box. If you haven't heard of this term, the buy box, when you start selling on Amazon, you'll be thinking about it all the time. The buy box is this box that's on the right-hand side of the product detail page, and you can see that add to cart button near the top. So there's, out of all the people that might be offering a product, there's one vendor that sits behind that add to cart button, and the way the phrasing is, you'd say that vendor has won the buy box. So there's more than one way customers can buy. They can click that add to cart button, or they can look a bit further down. It says other sellers on Amazon. There's 3 more add to cart buttons if they want to buy from one of those. And down the bottom you can see it says 164. Now what that means is that for this particular product, this example I've chosen, there are 164 stockists in America all competing for each sale on Amazon. They're competing for the buy box. And this is a situation that's very common in the United States, where you've got big distributors selling to all and sundry, and a lot of that product, the distributors are selling more or less indiscriminately to anybody who wants to order it. But the problem is that many of these so-called stockists that a distributor sells to aren't really stores at all. A lot of them, and when I say a lot, I'm talking hundreds of thousands of them, are online discounters. And what that means is a lot of the product that's sold through a conventional distributor can end up being sold online through eBay and Amazon at discount prices. The distributor loses control of the price, and it ends up being a race to the bottom as all these online discounters compete for that buy box. Now, if you're a big company with a well-known brand, you're already very established in the market, you might say, what's the problem? It's going to get me sales volume, it's not bad. But if you're a product that's new to the market, you're trying to get established, you're trying to build a brand, you're trying to get reach for your distribution, it really works against you and it can actually damage your brand. I've got a couple of examples. If you imagine that you have ambitions to get your product into a big retail store chain, the big hardware store chains or the big department stores or whatever it is, sooner or later you're going to be meeting with one of those category buyers that's making a decision of whether they'll stock your product. Now, one of the first things they're going to do is look your product up on Amazon and see if it's being offered really cheap there. If it is, why would they stock it in their store? Now, if you've got a distributor selling to online discounters, then your product is going to be discounted on Amazon, and then you've got a serious channel conflict problem, and it can take a while to rein that problem back in. Something else to think about is that in the States, shoppers, whether they're buying online or not, will often research a product online. Can we just go back a couple of slides, please? And where they go to research a product online is they go to Amazon because they want to read those Amazon product reviews. So what that adds up to is that for all your channels to market, how your product is represented on Amazon is often setting the first impression of your brand. So that doubles the importance of how your product is represented on Amazon. And coming back to that example I was using where I said there were 164 stockists of that particular product all competing for the buy box, well, who are these 164 stockists? And here's an example of half a dozen of them. These are the people that, under this scenario, would be your brand representatives. To the shopper, these are the people who are representing you. So what does it say about your brand if the featured stockists have names like Discount a Lot and Garage Sale 11 and Bargain Star, and yet it's very easy to fall into this trap. And what interest do these outfits have in helping you build your brand and market your products? Or are they actually just there to grab a few sales without actually adding any value? Why do you even have them as stockists? So the reality is they're really not likely to care much about your products. Can you really imagine them spending much time doing photo shoots to get your product imagery right, carefully wording your product descriptions? And if we look at the next slide, this is what is actually happening in this sort of situation up there. They get your product, they take a quick snap of it on their phone, on their kitchen table, they type in a few words off the back of the packet. Next thing you know, this is how your product can be represented on Amazon. This is I'm sad to say, a New Zealand product that fell into exactly this trap. And suddenly, this is the brand image that's being projected to 180 million Amazon shoppers. So what do you do about it? Well, my recommendation is to treat online marketplaces, Amazon foremost amongst them, treat Amazon as a distribution territory and use specialists to manage it. Your brand's too important to let it get out of control on Amazon. So just in summary, what I think you need to know, online marketplaces are dominating e-commerce in the USA now. 90% of customers choose free delivery. The bar for customer service is very high. Encourage customer reviews, participate, respond. Don't leave your brand up to distributors and resellers. And, all those things, employ coupons, specials, cross-sell promotions, all that kind of stuff. To bring your products to the attention of those 180 million Amazon shoppers.
Okay, thank you.
And that's me. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. That was fantastic. I'm just going to put you on mute now, and we're going to go to our next speaker, Kim. Just encourage people to enter your questions. I'm sure you've got lots for Paul. We'll save them up till the end, but just enter them into the system, and we'll endeavour to answer all we can on today. And if we don't get to some, we'll take them on notice and get an email off to you. So just introducing our next panellist, Kim. Kim Goldsworthy from Hyrex New Zealand. That particular company is a technology company that provides a unique activity and wellbeing monitoring service for animals. Hyrex was originally developed on the premise that animals cannot talk. Their behaviour changes as a result of a changing in their well-being. Hyrex is now enabled for veterinary professionals, farmers and researchers, launching its products internationally, targeting Australia, the Europe and Asia. Kim's current role focuses on all marketing strategies, including branding, packaging, awareness and education. And my understanding is that Kim has really increased sales on Amazon and has a number of little nifty tricks that she's going to share with us all today. So without further ado, I'll pass over to Kim and look forward to receiving your questions.
Hi, Hayrex is, as Ian said, a New Zealand business. It has two parts. One is very, very involved as a B2C business, which is why we use Amazon. The other is the one that Ian touched on, which is specifically veterinary and is wearable technology. Hayrex also encompasses a bowl called the Taurus Water Bowl, which you've actually seen many examples of. Thank you, Paul. And it's good to see that we are actually doing a lot of these things in our business. In conjunction with Paul and Amazon itself. So what is Taurus? For those of you who don't know, it is a very simple but extremely high-end pet water bowl. It holds 2 litres, it auto-dispenses water through and filters it at the same time. There's 1 million water bowls. We've just found out there's 30 million products on Amazon. There's thousands in the pet sector, and it's one of the fastest growing industries. So we had a business in New Zealand and Australia. We needed to go further. It was a board directive. How does a little New Zealand business get a little product like this to market? Well, we saw the opportunity in Amazon, and then we were lucky enough to meet Paul. So why did we pick Paul? Well, Paul knows more about Amazon than I do, and I'm a pretty good shopper. Paul also manages all our inventory, the shipment side, and the forecasting. We know our product and our brand is in really, really good hands, but we needed a B2C. No one knew who Taurus was. No one knew why to buy it. We sat down with Paul and his team and identified exactly the things that he's touched on. The importance of photography, the importance of messaging, the importance of simplicity, and the importance of credibility. We knew Amazon was a credible, high turnover, online business that set itself apart. So we knew we were aligning with the right business, and we knew we were aligning with the right B2C. So before I tell you exactly what we did, our key function was to build a brand, create awareness, generate sales where nobody knew who we were. But what were the results? And I'm going to tell you those first. It was a slow start, and there's no doubt about it. But every quarter we had at least 200% growth on the previous quarter. In the last 4 months, 80% of the year's results were evident. December being our biggest peak ever, and January hasn't shown much drop-off at all. We now know we're on the right track. Not only is our brand building, but we're generating revenue, and we know it's growing. In 2015, we're anticipating some big numbers. So Paul, I hope you don't fall off your chair, but we're expecting 600% growth for the US market alone. The success that we've had in the last 4 months has led us to introductions to Amazon in Canada and the UK. And even in the first month, we've seen sales, again, in markets who didn't know about our product or who we were. We're also looking at Amazon in Japan and China and hope to be up and away this year. That means I have a happy board in a B2C business that's starting to generate revenue and build value in its brand. So what did we do? Well, one of the first things we did was made sure that our website was US-centric. We simplified the messaging, the imagery, the packaging. We limited the SKUs. We made sure our messaging was simple and clear so that people knew what was different between our bowl and the thousands of others sitting on the site. We introduced colour. We then made sure that we were there as part of an Amazon customer base to answer those Q&As. Those Q&As are really, really important from a marketing perspective there were questions being asked that we didn't even think of. So we've then gone back and altered packaging and our website around some of those questions, busily writing its 2 litres, suddenly realising that the US is more interested in gallons. So some good lessons there that came back through the Q&As that we've constantly instigated. We answer the questions as fast as we can, and then we use our social media to interlink the same messaging. We further realised the power of the testimonials, recommendations, reviews and videos, and we started putting those up on our social media and linking it back through to Amazon. The testimonials for us is what set us apart. Anyone who had sent us a testimonial in the past or reviewed our product, we asked them if they would be prepared to comment on Amazon for us. That was done really, really quickly and made a huge difference to our business. We then instigated bloggers and reviewers to do the same. Again, if you're reviewing our product, at the end of it, not only can you push people to purchase through Amazon, or tell them that's where people can buy it, but can you also encourage people to review the product that have used it, including yourselves. We did the same with bloggers. Then we cross back to social media. As Paul quite rightly said, Amazon is a form of social media where people ask for other people's opinions. We implemented testimonials on Facebook, Twitter, photos of people that have purchased the product and using it with their pets, continually identifying our unique selling propositions and giving people a problem, providing the solution. But in every single instance, we were pushing them back to Amazon to buy. Later, we implemented competitions. The competitions can range from go in the draw to win for whatever reason. At the end of those competitions, we would announce the competition winner and then actively use the coupon for those that didn't succeed in the competition to say, well, you missed out, but hey, we've done a special coupon offer just for you because you entered. We've used targeted boosts to increase new markets. I mentioned earlier that we've recently entered the UK and Canada. Targeted boosts around promotions, targeted boosts around USP and where to buy it. Again, the credibility comes with Amazon. People know it's going to be a good product. They can see the testimonials. They know they're going to get their product delivered at the time that they expect. So in a very, very short space of time, we've been able to build brand value. We've been able to create awareness on a product that is shrouded with many others. We've been able to set our product apart from others. We've further provided a credible tool for customers to buy. And we've leveraged testimonials and recommendations to ensure that those sales continue. We are now generating really good revenue and have really good growth coming out of this. So 2015 sees much of the same. We expect the US to increase significantly. We expect existing new markets to grow at similar rates. We expect to enter new markets all on Amazon. And we expect to grow new SKUs and test those SKUs using the Amazon database within the credibility of the brand and the product that we've already used. We will continue to trial different ways of purchasing, be it multi-buy, as you saw before, purchasing 2 for X, bundling. Another one we're looking at introducing or finding out how we can do is auto shipment, simply because you need to replace your filter every month. The one market that I haven't had any success in, and this is a shout out to all those from Australia, is Australia. I hope Amazon's going to come to Australia soon, because that's the market we've been unable to get a distributor for. And that's the perfect example as to why Amazon and how it's worked immediately for us in a market we don't even have an office in. Australia's just across the ditch. We've been unable to secure a distributor But look at what we've already achieved in such a short space of time in the US, potentially the UK and Canada, and these new emerging markets, Japan and China. And that's me.
Thanks very much, Kim. That was fantastic and great to hear from someone who's been there and done it and has had so much success in such a short period of time. We do have some questions. I'm going to start with a question to Paul. Paul, how much stock do people need to start with on Amazon?
Yeah, great question, Ian. I think in the old way of doing things, you would have had to commit a fair chunk of stock because it's a big market. People exporting with us, with ExportX, we actually encourage quite the opposite. We say send a small quantity across your range, see what sells, and then we'll quickly follow it up, sending more of the products that are popular in each market. So, how much, it might be a matter of a few hundred units, or for the textile guys that have got hundreds of SKUs, it can be as few as, 10 or 5 or even 2 or 3 units of each colour and size and so forth until there's a sales pattern emerging. So the idea is keep the risk down and grow the inventory to stay ahead of sales, but don't overcommit too much to the market.
Thanks, Paul. Just as a follow-up to that question, there's a question here from Ross, and he actually says that his company's got a single SKU, so a single product. How easy is it for him to sell on Amazon?
Unmuted.
Well, I guess there's a lot more than how many SKUs you have in terms of whether a product sells well, but actually it's quite humorous because the firms that have only one SKU talk jealously to the ones with the big range and say, I wish I had more products like you guys have. And the ones that have a big product range talk to the guys who have one SKU and say, oh, I wish I only had a single SKU in my product range because life would be so much easier. I think the answer is that getting started, a small product range is really good. Amazon is very well suited to putting through volume of small numbers of SKUs on a continuous basis. It's much harder to sell, say, seasonal products where the SKUs come and go. Having a single SKU certainly shouldn't put you off. We've got a lot of single SKU companies that export with us and do very well.
Thanks, Paul. The next question actually comes from an Australian company, and they've from Jenny, and she's been approached direct from Amazon to sell directly from Australia. Just wanting to know the tricks and traps with doing that, and is that possible? Paul, that's probably a question for you again.
Yes, the background to that is that there are 5 or 6 different ways that a product can get onto Amazon, and often it can seem the most natural way to think about selling on Amazon the way you'd think about selling to a department store. And in fact, it can be quite a boost to your ego. An Amazon buyer contacts you and says, we'd like to stock your product. You feel really good. Understand that I have a particular bias in saying what I'm about to say. For a product that's new to the US market, I believe that selling through the Amazon retail division to a category buyer is not the best way to enter the market and not the best way to harness the real power of the Amazon channel. A couple of reasons for that. Number one, that buyer is dictating which products from your range they're going to stock. Number two, you lose control of price. You'll sell to Amazon, but Amazon will set the price that they sell at. They have a stated policy of matching or beating everybody else's price, and you get into that race to the bottom problem. Thirdly, you sell to a category buyer and you give them all the margin, but then they still make you do all the work, and then they want to charge you for merchandising and all kinds of stuff. So it's not a bad way to do it, but in my view, it's not the best way to harness the power of Amazon. The background for that, I should say, is that Amazon is a big beast. There are a lot of divisions. Some of those divisions compete with each other. So an Amazon category buyer actually there is a department. It was formed about 18 months ago in Amazon. Their job is to go and solicit products from Australia and one or two other countries. So their job is to sign up lots of companies under that particular model because they're in a particular division where they want to control the products that are going into Amazon. There's a whole other division of Amazon that will tell you exactly the opposite and don't do it. So, and I've got to say, that's the camp I'm in. I believe it's much better to have products there under your own control and sell through Amazon the way that we do it, where you retain control of price and how your product is represented, and you control which products are available and in what volumes.
Thanks, Paul. Just got a question for Kim now. Patrick wants to know, Kim, if you've had any first-hand experience with other distributors getting hold of your product and trying to sell it on Amazon.
I haven't experienced that at this stage. You mean buying them off Amazon and then reselling them, or seeing them on Amazon and then wanting to distribute them?
Yeah, buying them somewhere else and then trying to sell them on Amazon, I think he means.
No, I have seen that in New Zealand, but I've certainly not seen that in Amazon at this point.
Just another question while you're there, Kim. Someone's asked how you provide the tech support to if you've got new products coming on board or if you've got old products that need new images, and I know you've just got a new logo, so how do you go about that and what are the costs involved there?
Well, obviously anything to do with the brand and artwork, the costs associated with that is us, and then we would be providing them in the format to Paul's business that he requires. So we would incorporate those costs into our business and then they'd be uploaded at his end. So one of the advantages of ExportX and in a business like mine where probably a quarter of our business is tourists and 3/4 is veterinary specific, Paul's business handles a lot of that for us. So it's just a matter of the informal monthly calls that we have to make sure that everybody's up to speed with what we might be doing and what they're doing.
Thanks, Kim. Paul, might just follow on with another question from Natasha. And Natasha's asked what the costs are involved to sell on Amazon, and probably more specific, what are the costs to work with ExportX?
Right, okay, yeah, these are all great questions. There's quite a few different answers to that. I'm going to answer in the context of if you were to do what ExportX does, but do it yourself and deal with Amazon, then your costs are around a commission that gets paid to Amazon. There's the costs of delivery, the costs of getting product to the United States, duties, etc., warehousing, customer service. One of the big costs I think people often forget about is the cost of handling returns. In the United States, there's a propensity to buy products even if you're not sure and then return them if you change your mind. And that has to be built in. It's the percentage across the board runs at 4 to 5% of sold items get returned. It's pretty expensive to handle those, so that's another cost in there as well. Things like liability insurance need to be factored in. Those are all the sorts of costs. Now, the second part of that is if you appointed ExportX to manage sales through Amazon in the United States, that changes things quite a bit because ExportX bears a whole lot of those costs. So your costs then are things like making sure your product is packaged appropriately to be suitable for e-commerce sales and courier delivery. And then getting your product just to a depot in Sydney or in Auckland, and ExportX takes care of all those other costs of getting product physically to market, all the customer service, returns, all that sort of stuff. And our model is that we do that for margin on sales that we generate for you. If you're using ExportX, So the other costs are things like there's still the liability insurance cover, and while ExportX will do some online advertising and so forth, you would still budget for your own marketing plan and general brand and product publicity, but you do that at your own option. So does that kind of give a bit of an overview? Oh, there's also a one-time market entry cost that goes towards a lot of that product imagery and product marketing work that happens right at the outset to describe your products for the American shopper. And for the United States, that's a one-time unlimited product contribution of $5,000.
Thanks, Paul. And there are quite a few questions here about your service. So what we'll do is we'll send some information around after the webinar, just on the service you provide with some additional background. And I'll also talk a little bit about United States Connect and the fact that you're a rated service provider. We'll just try and answer as many of these questions as we can. Paul, I know there has been some issues with selling wine on Amazon. Is that still possible, and do you need a US importer? That's a question from Renee.
Great question, Renee, and that's a question that's close to my heart as well. I would absolutely love for ExportX to be taking wine from this part of the world to the United States. But, as I'm sure you already know, there are a whole lot of barriers and challenges. Amazon started a wine department, it's about maybe 2.5 years ago now. I've spoken a number of times to one of the main guys in that department. He loves wine from this part of the world, but they're just not set up to handle international product. They haven't actually solved the problem of state-by-state liquor distribution rules, and they do it through partnerships. So to cut a long story short, the full capabilities of selling on Amazon that we can do for products like Kim's Tourist Water Bowls are not available to us for wine. We would still need a licensed importer and a licensed distributor that can ship to as many states as possible, even if it's, say, just California and DC. And we would have to do our own specialized warehousing for wine and to ship that out. Now, all of that is doable, but we're not set up to do it yet. And yeah, Amazon itself is still grappling with this whole question of how to serve customers better with wine sales.
Hey, thanks, Paul. We'll go to the next question. It's actually about fulfillment. So could you please comment on Amazon doing our warehousing and distribution? So what's the setup there, Paul, in terms of Amazon doing the warehousing and distribution, and how does that differ from other models? And that's from Stu.
Stu, excellent question. And I'm going to think that you're referring to the service that's called Fulfillment by Amazon, FBA. And making that assumption, what I can tell you is that ExportX was one of the very first businesses to take advantage of that FBA service when it was launched about 2008. And the reason we take advantage of it is that it's highly automated. We can hook into it with our systems, our software systems, to manage the inventory. We use the FBA service of Amazon plus 4 or 5 other warehousing services for specialized purposes. You know, there are services that will handle large items, services that only handle small items, networks of warehouses that give you coast-to-coast coverage, some that only do apparel items and have extra services around that. If you're looking at selling on Amazon yourself, then I would, and you have a technical capability in-house, then I would recommend using FBA. It's not simple to use like a general purpose 3PL. It's really pretty complicated, but if you can figure out how to make the most of it, then it's very powerful, because products stocked in FBA become eligible for a number of promotional programs, and it's something that ExportX certainly exploits as much as we can on behalf of the manufacturers that sell with us.
Okay, there's a couple more very specific questions, Paul, which we might take on notice. Greg about the packaging and shipping, and also Eileen about contacting Paul, and Ross about some general information on Amazon. The webinar will be available if you, as Ross did, miss some of the webinar. So we'll send that link through. We'll also send the presentation. And just one final question, Paul, because I think it's a really important one. And if you could also comment, Kim, and we might start with you, has it been a challenge being a company from Australia and New Zealand selling your product on Amazon, or do you need to make out that you're American to sell?
It hasn't been a challenge. I did originally look at setting it up and doing it myself and found that it was a resource, time-consuming, understanding nightmare. But with an organisation that offers the services like ExportX, it has definitely not been a challenge. The only challenge we have had is that we've run out of stock a couple of times, and in the early stages it is really crystal ball gazing as to what that inventory is going to do from quarter to quarter. Nice problem to have if you're at my end, not so nice problem to have if you're at Paul's end with Amazon, I would guess. But no issues from this end at all. We would do it again, and I would certainly recommend it if you're wanting to get into the US market, build a brand, and get revenue at the same time relatively quickly without leaving your own office desk.
And Kim, just back to the question was more about your brand, the brand perception of a New Zealand-made product or a new product coming from New Zealand as opposed to the US. Have you had any pushback around that?
We did change the packaging for America to American language. So yes, we decided as a business that that was important. We don't overly promote that we are a New Zealand product. We do promote that we are designed, and the product is designed in New Zealand. So we wanted to look as much as possible as an American trusted product and remove any forms of barriers that may exist. If you're selling, New Zealand pure water or something, perhaps the marketing proposition would be different. But for us, we want to look American. We want to get this moving as quickly as possible.
Okay, thanks, Kim. Paul, did you have any comments on that one?
Unmuted.
Yeah, I'd be happy to comment on that. Two parts to it. One is the transactional question. If an American shopper finds a product and then they discover that it's being supplied from outside the United States, that equals foreign. So there's kind of this domestic versus foreign split. And if we're trying to ship product from here, individual orders, New Zealand and Australia are foreign, just like Nigeria and Russia and the Ukraine and all those other places where they steal your credit card numbers. So an American shopper, I know this is a sweeping generalization, but 90, 95, 99% of American shoppers will, given the choice, buy from a domestic merchant. So that's the first part, and the product needs to be available within the United States. The second part is it helpful for the product or not for the product to be an Australian product or made in Australia or made in New Zealand? And the way I'd answer that is to turn that around and say, if you put yourself in the shoes of an American shopper, just like there's an Australian-made campaign and on this side of the Tasman there's a Buy New Zealand-made campaign, well, there's an even stronger one up there called Made in the USA. So a product is either made in the USA or it's not. And the variation on that is it might be made in China. So made in Australia and made in New Zealand or from New Zealand from Australia is kind of like, it's not as good as made in the USA, but at least it's better than made in China. Does that make sense? So for most products that we sell, food products aside maybe, we will mention where the product is from, but it's usually not a primary selling point. It might be secondary at best. American shoppers are much more interested in having the best. So if it's the best of something, you know, a best of its type, that's what we lead with, not the fact that it comes from a particular country, which is really merely interesting in the scheme of things.
Thanks, Paul. That's great. Thanks, Paul. That's great. So I just wanted to thank our speakers, Paul and Kim. I think that's been a fantastic session and has given people a really good idea of not only, you know, how to sell on Amazon and how to sell well on Amazon, but also the potential of it, particularly for smaller companies that may not have the wherewithal to do it, to export to the states themselves. I'd just like to finish with a little bit of a plug for United States Connect. So we've had the website up and running for about 5 months now. We're trying to build a community of Australian companies looking to do business in the States. It's free for exporters to sign up, and we've got about 50,000 words of content on there on every aspect of doing business in the States. One of the key things about the website is it actually has rated service providers. So Paul's company, ExportX, it's not about Kim or myself or anyone saying they'll do a good job. He actually has ratings on the website from other exporters saying that ExportX does a good job. And he mentioned product liability insurance, which is a major issue when going to the States. That's another example where we have rated service providers, but anything from legal to accounting to warehousing, anything at all. So I would encourage you to join. It's free to join. And we do a lot of these webinars. We have a monthly newsletter as well. We're really trying to build a community, and the most important thing is for companies like yours to share information about your experiences, as Kim has today. So thanks very much for your time. As I said, we will send out the presentation, and thanks very much, Kim and Paul.
Thank you.
And,
Thank you.
Thanks, Kim. And finally, just a big thank you to the Export Council for making all this happen. Thanks very much. Thanks very much.